If you're new to sewing, then you've reached the right place. Most sewing machines have the same mechanism or similar mechanism. It's not nearly as scary once you know what each part does and what it's there. The more you practice, the more of a second nature sewing will start to feel to you. Now I know you're probably thinking that in the beginning, even something small as threading the machine can feel incredibly complicated. But I promise you, once you practice it for a couple of times, your hand will automatically know where to go because your muscle memory would have developed and you can thread the machine flat in a few seconds. All those guides, dials and steps look puzzling, but only in the beginning. In this video, I'll walk you through all the parts of the machine, what each one does, and how to actually get started sewing. Any sewing project, any dress, any top, any cushion cover, any project that I've ever made has been on this machine only using these available stitches. I have never had to use any complicated stitches, and the most common stitch anyways that we are going to use is the straight stitch, and the only foot that you would actually ever need is this straight stitch foot. This foot is also most commonly known as the all-purpose foot or general purpose foot. Let's begin with the simplest and the most obvious part. This here is the power plug. It's what energizes the whole machine and also connects the foot pedal, which controls the speed when you press it down. Right above that, you'll usually find the on and off switch that not only powers the machine but also turns on the little sewing light bulb. Using the foot pedal is also incredibly easy. The amount of pressure you put on the foot pedal to press it down, the faster the needle will move. And using the foot pedal is especially easy if you are someone who drives a car. Like, you would know you have to press on the brakes, press on the gas, press on the accelerator, right? But that practice of driving a car comes in very handy here. Most sewing machines have two dials. The dial on the left is called the pattern selector dial, and the one on the right with all the numbers is called the stitch length dial. Each of the stitches on the pattern selector dial or the stitch selector dial serve a purpose. Now the straight stitch is your everyday stitch. This is the stitch that you would be using the most in your sewing journey. It works literally for joining fabrics together, for seams, for hem, and this is also the easiest and the simplest of the stitches. When used in combination with the longest stitch length on your machine, which is number 4 on this machine, straight stitch creates a basting stitch. The straight stitch in the left position simply moves your needle over to the left side instead of keeping it in the center. This stitch is really useful when attaching zippers. The purpose of the regular zigzag stitch is also to finish the raw edges of your fabric, of your clothes, so they don't start fraying. So basically, the zigzag stitch can also be used as an overlock stitch. This is a customizable width adjustable zigzag stitch. What makes it so useful is that it's completely customizable. You get to decide whether you want your zigzag to be bold and wide or fine and delicate. The 3-step zigzag stitch is used for attaching elastics to your waistband or to your skirts, etc. It is used to sew on stretch fabric so that when you stretch the fabric, the threads don't break. Blind hem stitch is a bit of a complicated stitch and requires a little bit of practice. So we will touch upon the stitch, its uses, how it's done in some other video. For now, all you need to know is that there are 2 types of blind hem stitches here. The first one is for flat fabrics like linen, cotton, which don't stretch on their own, and the second one is for knit fabrics that have a stretch on their own so that the stitches don't break when you sew on. These 4 little rectangles that we see right here are used for creating buttonholes. You basically have to rotate the dial at each step. length dial basically does what it's called adjusts the length of the stitch. At 4 the stitch is the longest, at number 0 and number 1 the stitch is the shortest in length. So basically when you're using number 4 as the stitch length, the stitch would be used ideally for a basting stitch, or these stitches are used for heavy fabrics like denims. And when the stitch is narrow, basically between when the dial is set between 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, the short stitch length is used for when you're sewing your buttonholes, or when you are sewing your raw edges with an overlock stitch, so that the stitch length is very little, the stitches are narrow, and it creates a satin stitch. On the top of the machine is the thread tension dial. It's marked with numbers typically from 0 up to 9. Lower numbers mean looser tension, higher number means tighter tension. Now let's talk about the thread tension on your machine. It sounds a little technical, but it's just about balance. Every sewing machine has 2 threads, correct? One that comes from the top pin and the other that comes from the bobbin thread. Tension is simply how tightly or loosely these 2 threads pull upon each other while making a stitch. Let's understand this concept by taking the example of shoelaces. Now when you're tying the shoelace, if you pull one of the laces too tightly, the thread slips and moves on to the other side. Same happens with thread tension. But when you're tying shoelaces and you put equal amount of pull on both the laces, the knot sits nicely, tightly, firmly in the center of the shoe, correct? The same logic of balance applies to thread tension as well. The thread tension dial comes with numbers from 0 to 9 where you can select the thread's tension. However, if you find this intimidating, all you can do is select just one number on the dial, which is roughly around 4. Anything between 4 and 5 you can select, and that number is the sweet spot that works for most flat fabrics. So you don't have to worry too much about adjusting the thread tension every time. This one number, I have used this thread tension for all my projects and it has never given me any problem. So remember, 4, between 4 and 5, ideally 4 or 4.5 is the sweet spot for a good amount of thread tension. Right underneath the needle you would see there are feed dogs. The function of the feed dogs is to move the fabric in a certain direction. When I press on the foot pedal, the feed dogs will start moving the fabric in tandem with the needle. The feed dogs move the fabric away from us, but their direction can be changed. This is the function of the reverse stitch button. This little lever here that goes up and down is for the reverse stitch. Now think of reverse stitch as locking your stitches. What this does is that it changes the direction of the feed dogs every time I push this down. So the normal direction in which the fabric moves is away from you, but when I press this down, the direction of the feed dogs changes. Basically they start moving the fabric towards me. So this is for reverse stitch. Think of reverse stitch as knotting your threads, putting a knot to your thread when you're hand sewing something, so that the stitches don't unravel and the 2 pieces don't come apart. That is exactly the function of this little pulley thing here. Attaching the presser foot to your machine is incredibly easy. Take the presser foot that you want to attach and place it flat on the needle plate, right under the presser foot holder. You'll see a small bar on top of the foot. This is the part that clicks into the holder. Now slowly lower the presser foot lever. As the holder comes down over the presser foot bar, you'll hear a light click. That sound tells you the presser foot is locked securely in place. Removing the presser foot is also incredibly easy. All you have to do is simply press or push this lever right behind the needle, and the presser foot will snap right off from the shank. You don't need to use any tools, just a little gentle push is enough. There will always be a time when you would need to change the needle on your machine. Maybe because it's broken, maybe because it's bent, or simply because it has become blunt and you need a sharper needle. So let's see how we can change the needle. First and foremost, turn this knob towards you so the needle is at its highest. On the right side of the needle bar, you'll see a small screw called the needle clamp screw. Loosen this by turning it to the left. To do this, you can use the screwdriver that comes with the machine. You don't have to remove it completely, just loosen the screw enough so that the needle slides out. Take your new needle and check it. On every sewing machine needle, one side of the shank is flat and the other is rounded. On the single merit, the flat side of the needle should face the back of the machine. Now push the needle up in the clamp as far as it will go. Once the needle is fully inserted, hold it in place with one hand and tighten the clamp screw by turning it to the right. You can use either your fingers or the little screwdriver for this step. Make sure it's nice and snug so the needle doesn't wobble while sewing. Every sewing machine uses two threads. The first one comes from the top right here from the spool of thread sitting on the top pin, and the second one comes from the bobbin that sits inside the machine right here. This is where the bobbin goes. Think of it like this. The top thread is the one you see running over your fabric, and the bottom thread is its partner that's hidden underneath. Without both, your stitches won't form properly. These two threads work together. The bobbin thread forms a loop and holds the top thread in place, and this is the mechanism for each stitch, and these stitches hold the two pieces of fabric together. Every machine comes with a drawn out guide to thread your needle and to wind your bobbin. Let's take a look at how we can thread our needle. To thread your top thread, place your thread spool on the top pin and then pull it through the thread guides down through the tension discs. I'm just following the path that is printed on my machine. Most machines have this path printed, and once you reach path at the end of the path, which is number 5 on my machine, after you reach this point, hold the thread in one hand and the end of the thread in your other hand and guide it through the small hook that is right behind, actually right in front of the needle, and guide it through the hook. And once you pull the thread through the hook, you have to thread the needle from front to back. In case if the edge of your thread isn't too sharp, use a little bit of water to round the edge and make it sharper so it threads through the needle very easily. And then pull the string out, pull the thread from behind, lift the presser foot and then pass the thread through in between and through the notch of the presser foot. By following the provided diagram and path on the machine, let's see how we can bind our bobbin. You can see I have two different types of bobbins here. It doesn't matter which one you choose to use as long as it fits in your bobbin case. Place the spool of the thread on the top pin and pull the thread through the bobbin winding guide. After circling, the top thread should overlap the bottom thread like shown in the diagram. Take the end of the thread and pass it through the small hole on the side of the bobbin, and the thread should pass from the inside to the outside. Place the bobbin onto the bobbin winder spindle and push it to the right until it clicks. Hold the loose thread end with your fingers and then press the foot pedal gently. The bobbin will start winding. After a few turns, you can stop and let go of the tail. Continue pressing the pedal to wind evenly until your bobbin is full and it stops spinning. The machine usually will slow down or stop completely when it's at capacity. Push the bobbin spindle back to the left and cut the thread using the thread cutter that came with the machine. Now take your wound bobbin and your bobbin case, and hold the bobbin so that the thread pulls out in a clockwise direction. Next, drop the bobbin into the case and pull the thread through the small slit that you see on the case, and then pull the string under the tension spring. You should feel a little resistance when you tuck the thread out and pull it out, but that's normal. Pull out about 4 to 5 inches of thread and let it just hang free. Now it's time to insert our bobbin in the bottom compartment, and to access that I have to remove this little boxy thing first. Then open the shuttle cover plate on the front of my machine and we can see the spot where the bobbin case goes. Hold the bobbin case by the small hinged latch right there, and then insert the bobbin case straight into the shuttle and push it in until you hear it click in place, so that the bobbin case feels secure in place, and then it still spins when you pull the thread. And pull the thread, the 3-4 inches of thread, and just let it hang loose. Our bobbin is in place, and now we have to bring the bottom thread up. To bring our bottom thread up, we first need to select the straight stitch on our dial. Hold the upper thread gently with one of your hands, and with your right hand, turn the hand wheel towards you so the needle goes down a couple of times, once or twice, until you see a small loop of the bottom thread being pulled out by the upper thread, and then pull out the bottom thread with your fingers. Here's how the mechanism looks like on the inside of the machine. You can see how the top thread goes in and lifts up the bottom thread through the feed dogs. While doing this, be very cautious that your machine is switched off and your foot is not on the presser foot. And that's it. You have just taken the very first tour of your Singer Merit sewing machine. Now, I have not been paid for promoting this machine. I just use this machine, so I have to give you a demo. Thank you for watching the video, and keep an eye on this space for more beginner friendly tutorials. Bye!